In this session, we get to hear from Dan Erickson, Viable's CEO and co-founder, about how he has built high-growth startups, specifically SaaS startups, from scratch. So Dan, you've built high-growth startups before, including Yammer, Gettable, and Ease. And now you're building Viable. Can you share with us the top 5 lessons you've learned from building SaaS companies?
The first lesson is be flexible and willing to change your mind. Viable actually started as a completely different product, still very much in the customer feedback space, but we were squarely aimed at early stage startups to help them find product market fit. A lot of those companies were very, very early stage. They weren't able to collect enough customer feedback to really help them change their direction. However, we started also seeing a lot of usage from companies who clearly already had product market fit. And they were really just needing to understand their customers better and really dig through all of their qualitative feedback to understand where the gaps in their product were. Through all of this learning, we were actually able to pivot from our original product, which ran a PMF survey for our customers, over to a product that aggregates customer feedback for our customers and works with much larger enterprises. The second lesson is before product market fit, there's promise market fit. And I'd actually like to read you a quote from Josh Koppelman over at First Round. And that is, that time in the customer journey when you know that you have an idea that people want. They want to be beta customers, they want to pilot it, and it isn't even built yet. So this is describing what I think of as promise market fit. Promise market fit before product market fit is super important. You really need to know that customers want what it is you're building before you invest all that effort in actually going out and building it. You can tell that you've got promise market fit when you go into a demo and their eyes light up, or you have a video demo out there that people are playing with, and it generates a lot of leads for you. So generally speaking, you'll know that you've got promise market fit when people want what you're selling, even if it doesn't live up to the promise yet. That's when you'll find product market fit. But overall, really, you're aiming for something that people really want, and then you need to go build it.
Can you name an example of a moment where you knew there was promise market fit at Viable?
Sure. So early on, when we first launched this product publicly, we actually worked with Rahul Vora over at Superhuman, and he recorded a video of him using the product. And it was really just a quick 30-second video of him asking a simple question. I think it was, how can we improve the calendar for Superhuman? And our system then went through and combed through 60,000 pieces of customer feedback and turned around and gave an answer that lined up with Superhuman's product roadmap for calendar one-to-one. And this whole thing took 10 seconds. He recorded that video and he sent it out to his Twitter following, and the video went viral. We had, I think, almost 40,000 views on the video alone. So we know that resonated, that there's something about this product here that people really wanted. And we can validate that because it actually did end up driving quite a few leads for us as well. People that were coming in and filling out our onboarding survey, asking to join.
Okay, let's move on to lesson number 3.
So the third lesson is don't be afraid to use your network. Now, this requires that you've got a network first. So my advice to first-time founders that haven't really built a network out yet is build a network before you go and start the company. However, once you've got that network, use them as much as you can. You've got great people that that have a lot of different pieces of knowledge and expertise. And some may end up as investors for you, some may end up as employees, some could be advisors. But don't be afraid to go out and ask. Everybody in this industry, at least from my experience, is really excited to help other people. we've actually been able to leverage our network quite a bit here at Viable. So for example, building up our early investor list was people that I've worked with in the past. And I was lucky enough to have some really strong investors there. But they then went out and used their networks to help us build our own, which then increased the number of investors we had. And then in turn, now that we had this great set of investors on our team, we were able to use them to build up our very first sort of customer list and bring in the very first customers to use us. And those customers tended to be really great at giving us feedback. So we added them to our network. And then we started using them to go out and find other contacts at other places. So don't be afraid to ask for help. And that can be in many different ways. That can be, asking for money. That can be asking for customer intros. That can be asking for product feedback. And don't be afraid to ask the hard ones too. Really, really try to get some tough love from your network to get you, all of that, all of the product's feedback and process feedback that you can. Also, I guarantee it, when you first start up your company, you're going to have some set of expertise. You might be a salesperson in your past. You might be a product person in your past, or an engineer. But you probably don't have everything that it takes to run a great company. And so go specifically build your network and find experts in those areas that you have gaps in. So for example, I'm an engineering leader by trade. And my co-founder is a product and design leader. So we didn't have a lot of go-to-market experience between the two of us. So on the sales side and on the marketing side, and we actually used our network and our investors to go out and help us find great people to fill those gaps for us over time.
That's a great lesson, especially the part about getting tough love. All right, so what is your fourth lesson?
Update your investors regularly and honestly. You actually want to include as many people on those investor updates as possible, not just the people who have already invested, but you want to get your advisors in there. I even include all of my employees. They're on the list as well. The more people that are holding you accountable on that nice cadence, the better it's going to be. I specifically also like to put prospective new investors on the list as well. Part of getting new investment is actually building a relationship with those investors and showing that you can execute across your goals. This can actually generate some positive returns really quickly, especially if you're hitting those goals. But don't be afraid to include bad news as well. If you're painting everything in sort of sunshine and rainbows, it can quickly look like you're hiding something, or that you're trying to put some rose-colored glasses on an update. These are startups. Investors know there's good things happening all the time. There's bad things happening all the time. It's a roller coaster, and you should share that roller coaster with everyone on that update. And we actually use a really cool system called Cabal to send those updates out. It allows us to keep track of all of our advisors, keep track of all of our investors, and then send out on a great sort of monthly cadence with a nice template our investor updates there. It helps us make it more efficient and actionable for the investors.
Yeah, I think transparency seems to be the default these days. So I'm glad to hear that. One piece of advice you just shared that I actually haven't heard before is to include your potential new investors in the communications. I think that's a really useful one. All right, how about the fifth and final lesson?
So the last lesson, the fifth lesson, is be willing to invest the time to become an expert in your area. You don't have to start as an expert in whatever it is that you're building, but you do have to become one. The deeper your expertise, the better the moat's going to be. So for example, when we pivoted away from our product market fit survey product over to our feedback aggregation product, I spent a ton of time in the NLP space, specifically with GPT-3. And so I've spent basically over 100 hours at this point, just in the GPT-3 playground, really understanding how to use GPT-3 to build a qualitative data warehouse that can answer questions about that feedback with a high degree of accuracy and by making it actionable as well. I was probably one of the first 1,000 or so people to get access to the playground. At this point, it's been almost a year since we've had access. And yeah, I've spent a ton of time in there building up prompts, working with the community, sort of understanding the use cases, and really just becoming an expert with GPT-3. And then, now that I kind of know that space really well, we doubled down on it by hiring for it as well. So we actually hired a machine learning expert who's got lots of GPT-3 experience. He's actually building out his own GPT-3 product as well. So once you've got that sort of expert level knowledge that can differentiate you from anyone else, double down on it and make sure that your entire organization is sort of becoming experts at that thing.
Yeah, what I love about this answer or this lesson is that you specifically are talking about technology that's not something you can just pick up in a day or two. And you've actually demonstrated that you've put the time in to understand it. It's brand new, so you actually have to put the time in, and went out and then hired other folks to contribute to that. All right, well, thank you so much, Dan, for being open and sharing your lessons from having built startups in the past. I'm sure that the audience really appreciates it. And with that, we thank you for watching.